A widowed billionaire heard laughter inside his mansion for the first time since his wife died. He followed the sound slowly, confused and shaking, because his 3 sons had not laughed in months. But when he opened the sunroom door and saw who was making them laugh, he froze. It was the new nanny, a young black woman named Lauren Brooks, on her hands and knees with all 3 boys on her back, bringing life back into a house that had been silent for too long. And what he did next would change not only her life, but his forever. Michael Carter pushed open the front door of his mansion slowly, expecting the same quiet that had lived inside the house since the day his wife died. The air felt heavy, the rooms felt empty, and every corner of the house reminded him of the life he once had. He loosened his tie with tired hands and dropped his keys on the table. His head was full of stress from work, but his heart was full of something deeper, something that stayed with him every day: pain. He walked farther into the hallway, moving slowly, like a man carrying a weight he could not put down. He was ready to fall on the couch and let the silence swallow him again. But then, something strange happened. Something he had not heard in months, a sound that made him stop walking. He heard laughter, soft at first, then louder. It came from the other side of the house. It was not just one laugh. It was 3. 3 tiny voices laughing at the same time. Michael froze. His body shook gently. For a moment, he thought he was imagining it. His 3 sons, Lucas, Ethan, and Noah, had not laughed since the day they lost their mother. They barely spoke. They barely ate. They barely looked at him. They had become quiet children living inside a quiet house. And now, they were laughing. He placed his hand on the wall so he would not fall. His breath came slow. His chest felt tight. He had tried everything to help them heal, but nothing worked. Therapists, books, toys, new routines. But nothing opened their little hearts again. They stayed shut, like small doors locked from the inside. Yet tonight, there was laughter. He moved down the hallway slowly, afraid the sound would stop if he walked too fast. The closer he came to the sunroom, the stronger the sound became. It echoed in the hall, warm and full of life. He reached the door and stood there for a long second, afraid of what he might see, afraid it was not real. Then, he pushed the door open. His body became still. His eyes grew wet. There, on the bright carpeted floor, was the new nanny, Lauren Brooks, a young black woman with gentle hands and soft eyes. She was on her hands and knees, moving slowly across the room. On her back were Lucas, Ethan, and Noah, holding on to her shoulders and laughing the way children should laugh. Their small hands gripped her shirt, their legs wrapped around her gently. Their faces were filled with joy he thought they had forgotten. Lauren nickered like a horse, moving her head side to side. Noah laughed so hard he fell forward on her back, holding her tightly. Ethan leaned on her with trust in his eyes. Lucas clapped his small hands, cheering her on. Michael felt his throat close. He pressed his hand against the door frame. His legs felt weak. He could not move. He could not speak. He could only watch. His boys were laughing. His boys were alive. And it was not because of him. It was because of her. Lauren kept crawling until she turned her head slightly and saw him standing there. She stopped fast. The laughter faded into soft breathing. She lowered herself gently so the boys would not fall. Lucas turned and saw his father first. His smile slowly slipped away. Ethan looked next. His hands dropped to his sides. Noah slid off Lauren's back and stepped behind her leg, as if hiding. The boys did not run to their father. They did not raise their hands for him to carry them. They stood close to Lauren, like she was the safe place they understood. Lauren kept her eyes on the floor. Her hands pressed lightly against the carpet. Her voice was soft when she finally spoke. "Good evening, Mr. Carter." Her voice held fear. Not fear of harm, but fear of losing something fragile. Fear of being misunderstood. fear that she had crossed a line he never explained. Michael opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His heart pulled in two directions at the same time. He wanted to thank her. He wanted to cry. He wanted to ask how she did it. He wanted to tell her she had given him something he thought was gone forever. But all he could do was stare. Lauren lifted her eyes for a moment. She looked like she was waiting for anger, waiting for him to say she had done too much, waiting for him to tell her to stop. Michael did not know how to speak, but he forced himself to move. His head lowered, then lifted again slowly. He gave her a small nod, a soft nod, a nod that said he was not upset, a nod that said he saw what she did and he respected it, a nod that said she had given his sons something he never could. Lauren breathed out slowly. The boys relaxed, but they stayed beside her, still unsure of their father's silence. Michael stepped back. He needed air. He needed a place to breathe freely. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the room. His hands were shaking. His chest felt full of something he had never felt before. He went to his office, closed the door gently, and sat down on the couch. For the first time in many months, he covered his face with both hands and cried. Quiet tears, painful tears, tears of relief, tears of shame, tears of gratitude. Lauren had done what he could not do. She had brought his sons back to life. She had touched the part of them he could not reach. He wiped his face slowly. There was confusion inside him. There was fear. There was hope. But above everything, there was a question he could not answer. Who was Lauren Brooks? And why did it feel like she had entered his home for a reason he did not understand yet? Michael did not sleep that night. He lay on the couch in his office with his arm over his eyes, waiting for the quiet in his mind to settle. But it never did. The picture of Lauren on the floor with his sons stayed in his head like it was painted there. The sound of their laughter kept replaying. It felt like something too precious, something he was afraid he might lose if he blinked too long. He sat up slowly as the early morning light crept through the curtains. His body felt tired, but his mind was restless. He rubbed his face, took a deep breath, and stood. The house was silent again, the way it had been for months, but the silence felt different today. It felt like something new was sitting inside it. Something soft, something warm, something that did not exist there before. He walked down the hallway carefully and paused in front of his son's room. He pressed his ear against the door. He heard calm breathing. No whimpers, no tossing, no nightmares. They were sleeping peacefully. A small smile found his lips, something he had not felt in a long time. When he reached the kitchen, he heard faint sounds. Soft clinks, a spoon tapping against a pot. He stood in the doorway quietly. Lauren was there, moving around the stove with gentle hands. She wore a simple house shirt and tied her hair up. Her movements were slow and steady, like someone who understood how heavy mornings could be for this house. Michael walked in. His steps were quiet on the tile floor. Lauren turned when she sensed someone behind her. When she saw it was him, her body became stiff again. She lowered her eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," she said softly. "Good morning," he answered. "And please, call me Michael." She gave a small nod, unsure if it was safe to do so. Before either of them could speak again, small footsteps pattered into the kitchen. The boys entered wearing their pajamas. Noah rubbed his eyes. Ethan yawned. Lucas held his small toy car in one hand. They paused when they saw their father sitting at the table. Their little faces changed. Their shoulders pulled in a bit. Not fear, just uncertainty. Then Noah, the youngest, walked to Lauren and tugged gently on her shirt. "Miss Lauren," he whispered, "can we play horse again today?" Lauren looked at Michael quickly, concern in her eyes. She did not want to overstep again. She did not want him to think she was taking his place in their hearts. Michael took a slow breath and looked at his sons. Their faces held small traces of hope. "Yes," he said softly. After breakfast, all three boys turned toward him in surprise. Their eyes brightened. They climbed into their seats at the table and began eating without argument. Noah swung his little legs beneath the chair. Ethan hummed a small tune under his breath. Lucas placed his toy car beside his plate and smiled at it. Michael felt something shift inside him, something light. Lauren moved around the table, placing fruit cups and juice for the boys. They talked to her in small pieces. "Miss Lauren, look, I had a dream. Miss Lauren, do you like dinosaurs? Miss Lauren, can we sit outside later?" She listened to each child carefully. She knelt to their level. She touched their backs softly when they spoke. She gave each boy her full attention, and they responded to her with trust he had not seen in months. Michael sipped his coffee and watched in silence. He realized something new. Lauren did not work with the boys the way a person works for money. She moved with them like she knew what loss felt like. She smiled at them like she understood what sadness could do to a child. She listened like every word mattered. He had hired nannies before. None of them reached his boys. None of them stayed. Some said the house felt too heavy. Others said the children were too quiet. Some left without giving notice. But this young woman, she stayed. After breakfast, Lauren took the boys to the playroom. Michael went to his office, but he could not sit still. After a few minutes, he walked toward the large window facing the backyard. He saw Lauren sitting on the grass with the boys, showing them how to build something with wooden blocks. They laughed quietly when the tower fell. Michael leaned on the window frame. His heart tightened in a different way. Not from pain, from something close to relief. Hours passed. Michael worked on his laptop but kept drifting into thoughts about Lauren. Who was she? Why did she write that note on her job application, saying she understood grief? How did she make children open their hearts? That night, the boys fell asleep faster than usual. Michael stepped into the hallway and listened. Their room was quiet and peaceful. He breathed out slowly. When he returned to the living room, he noticed a soft glow coming from the library. He walked toward it and stopped at the doorway. Lauren was sitting on the leather couch, her legs tucked to the side, reading a book. Her hair was loose now. Her face looked tired but calm, the calm of someone who had carried more pain than she let others see. Michael stepped into the room. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked softly without looking up. He shook his head. She closed her book gently and placed it on her lap. Michael sat across from her, leaving space between them. The silence in the room did not feel heavy like before. It felt safe. He took a moment before speaking. "They laughed yesterday," he said slowly. Lauren nodded. "Yes, they did. I have not heard that sound since Emily," he whispered. Lauren looked down at her hands. "They talk about her," she said softly. Michael's breath paused. "What do they say?" he asked. She lifted her eyes. "They say she smelled like flowers. They say she sang songs in the car. They say she let them eat dessert first on Tuesdays." Michael closed his eyes. It hurt. And yet, it felt good to hear. He whispered, "Thank you for remembering her with them." Lauren stood slowly, holding her book. "Good night, Michael," she said. She walked out quietly. Michael stayed in the room, staring at the empty doorway. For the first time in a long time, he felt something he thought he would never feel again: hope. The next morning began quietly, but not the kind of quiet that felt empty. It was a soft quiet, almost unsure of itself, like the house was trying to learn a new way to breathe. Michael walked down the stairs slowly, listening for small sounds. Part of him hoped to hear Lauren's gentle voice or the boys laughing again. Another part of him feared they had gone back to silence. He stepped into the hallway and heard something faint. Not laughter, not crying. Something else. The sound of Lauren humming a soft tune, a simple song, a peaceful one. He followed the sound toward the kitchen. When he reached the doorway, he saw her standing with her back toward him. She was preparing breakfast. She moved calmly, the way someone moves when they care deeply about the people they cook for. Lucas sat at the table drawing on a piece of paper. Ethan was trying to reach the cereal box by stretching his arm as far as he could. Noah sat on a stool, swinging his legs slowly, holding a spoon like he was thinking about something important. Lauren noticed Michael before the boys did. Her body stiffened for a second, but then she relaxed just a little. "Good morning," she said quietly. "Good morning," Michael replied, walking inside. The boys looked up. Lucas gave a small smile. Ethan lowered the cereal box carefully. Noah waved in a shy way. Their faces showed a new kind of calm, the kind Michael had not seen in months. Lauren placed plates on the table. She served the boys first. She served Michael next. He sat down. The table felt warmer than usual. The boys ate without rushing. They talked softly. Noah asked if they could play outside after lunch. Ethan asked if they could build something with blocks. Lucas whispered something to Lauren, and she bent down to listen with care. Michael watched everything. He watched the way the boys leaned toward her. He watched the way she guided them gently. He watched how she smiled at small things they said. He felt something rise inside him, something quiet, something warm, something he could not describe. After breakfast, the boys ran to the living room to get their toys. Lauren picked up plates and began cleaning. Michael stood and walked toward her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she broke the silence with a voice that carried both fear and honesty. "About last night," she said softly. "I am sorry you had to see me like that." "You do not have to be sorry," Michael replied. "You are allowed to feel pain." She shook her head slowly. "It is not about being allowed. It is about not wanting to break down in a house that already holds so much sadness." Michael stepped closer, but not too close. "You helped remove some of that sadness," he said, "more than anyone else has." Lauren looked down at her hands. "I do not know how long I can stay," she whispered. Michael felt a sharp pain in his chest. "Why would you leave?" he asked. "Because people talk," she said quietly. "People look at me and look at you and make stories that are wrong. When I walk the boys outside, people stare like I do not belong with them." Michael listened. His face tightened with concern. "You do belong with them," he said softly. "They trust you. They feel safe with you." "That is the problem," she whispered. "People judge things they do not understand." She paused, then added, "And I do not want to bring trouble into their lives." Michael shook his head slowly. "You are not trouble," he said. "You are the only reason this house feels alive again." Lauren closed her eyes for a brief moment. "Your sons," she said. "They saved me, too. When they laugh, it feels like a small piece of Lily is still here, like she is not completely gone." Michael's voice became gentle. "And when you help them smile, it feels like Emily is still here." Lauren lifted her eyes. For a moment, the room felt still. They stood facing each other, not as a boss and an employee, but as two people holding pieces of broken hearts. Before more could be said, Lucas came running in with a drawing. "Miss Lauren," he said, "look what I made." Lauren bent down. The drawing showed a woman with brown skin holding hands with three boys. Above it, he wrote in big, uneven letters, "Thank you." Lauren's voice nearly broke. "It is beautiful," she said softly. Lucas leaned his head against her shoulder for a moment that felt longer than it was. Michael watched, and something heavy inside him shifted. Later that afternoon, the boys took a nap. The house became quiet again. Lauren went to the backyard to hang some laundry on the line. Michael followed her after a while. He walked outside slowly and stood beside her while she worked. "I am not asking you to replace Emily," he said softly. "No one could. But you have given my sons a chance to heal. You have given me a chance to breathe again." Lauren looked at him, unsure. "I am just doing my job," she whispered. "No," Michael said, shaking his head. "It is more than a job." He took a deep breath. "You came into this house with your own pain. You carried mine too. You carried my boys. That is not something a job can teach." Lauren swallowed hard. She looked toward the garden, where the flowers Emily planted still grew. "If I stay," she whispered, "I do not want to feel like a visitor in their hearts." Michael moved one step closer. "You are not a visitor," he said. "You are part of them now." Her eyes softened. A tear formed but did not fall. "I do not want to ruin their story," she said. "You are helping write the part that saves them," Michael replied. A tiny smile touched her lips. It was weak, but it was real. Before either of them spoke again, they heard small footsteps. Noah toddled toward them, still sleepy. He lifted his arms to Lauren without saying a word. She picked him up gently. Noah placed his small head on her shoulder. And in that moment, Michael knew something with complete certainty. Lauren was no longer someone working in his house. She was someone who belonged in their lives, someone who brought light into dark rooms, someone who came with her own pain and helped turn their pain into something that could be carried. Michael looked at her with Noah in her arms, and the thought came to him quietly. Maybe she was meant to come into their world. Maybe she was the piece they did not know they needed. And maybe, just maybe, the healing they were all looking for had finally begun. Dear viewers, this story reminds us that sometimes the people who enter our lives quietly are the ones sent to help us heal. Michael lost his wife. Lauren lost her daughter. The boys lost their mother. Yet somehow, inside one house filled with pain, they found comfort in each other. They learned that love does not replace what was lost, but it helps carry the pain in a softer way. And when hearts are broken, kindness can build a bridge that helps everyone move forward. This story teaches us that healing can come from the most unexpected place, through someone who understands the same kind of pain. It teaches us that family is not always about blood, but about who shows up, who stays, and who brings light into dark moments. Dear viewers, tell us in the comments where you are watching from and what you learned from this story. We would love to hear your thoughts. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a message of hope today. And if you want more emotional stories from us, comment "more stories," and you will be the first to get the next touching story. Thank you for watching, and may your heart find peace, no matter what you are going through.